So, why did I spend literal days turning something that could have been, some might argue should have been, a short, simple text document like this into this presentational nonsense? No, I'm seriously asking you, why did I do this? Greetings, good humans, and welcome to Tabletop Alchemy, where sometimes we attempt to create three-dimensional... Sometimes we attempt to talk quickly while reading a teleprompter, and it never works. Oh boy. How do you recover from that one? How do you restart it? I guess from the beginning. Greetings, good humans, and welcome to Tabletop Alchemy, where sometimes we attempt to create three-dimensional characters on the page, complete with excessive backstory that no one will ever see on screen. And we thank our patrons for being the patron saints they are. Okay. First thing is, I feel kind of like I'm walking around in my pajamas, but I'm just in my t-shirt today because it's warm in the apartment today. I don't have AC in this apartment because they were like, you live by the beach, you'll never need AC. Except, for those heat domes. I grew up in the desert where it was 120 degrees every day in the summer. I guess it was just a perpetual heat dome. I don't know. Okay, so I want to get into the actual character brief here pretty quick because it's a decent sized chunk of content and suitable for background listening. Maybe. I do want to touch on this notion of doing something to an nth degree when it seems completely unnecessary. Like, for example, when I told my buddy Hoffman I was working on all these character backgrounds, his first reaction was, why? Do you have to do that? It gave me pause for a brief second, but I was more flabbergasted at the notion that I wouldn't write out character backgrounds. But anyway, this is all in service of our movie Warband. If you're new here and don't know what I'm talking about, you can check this video out right here to get excited. Alright, maybe just to get caught up. Essentially, we've done this before when we created the Nightmare Hunters for the Silver Bayonet, right? And these character backgrounds are really only for a handful of people, mostly for myself, so I have a handle on who these people are when I work on the actual screenplay. And hopefully the individual character backgrounds will be useful to the actors eventually playing these characters on screen. Beyond that, the PDF I ended up making is probably not going to be read by anyone else. I mean, aside from the pictures, I included some mid-journey concept art for each character, so that'll end up being good reference for the production team. But let's be honest, nobody's going to read 15 pages of dense text just because. That's ridiculous to assume. And that's an example of one of the reasons I went ahead and let myself spend some time on the design of this document that easily could have been a text file. Another reason is, like I've mentioned before, any creative vision I apply to something that has to do with the movie should reflect, as much as it can, the overall feel of the project. Quality level maybe, just visual aesthetic, whatever. I don't know, this is all probably just post-justification for my weird penchant to mess with design elements more and more as I get older. I mean, it's fun, I like doing it, and I know it's probably misplaced energy, but again, kind of steeping myself in constant attempts at aesthetic for the overall project has got to have some kind of value. I mean, it just helps further the consistency of the project, at least for myself. Now, all that said, everything in this character brief is subject to change, but I'm super happy I got it to where it is, mostly for the character content. I feel like I'm getting to know these guys, and hopefully that'll translate into scenes within the screenplay. And here's a quick look at the final exported PDF. You can see I continue to work on the cover, and the interior images changed a little bit. But overall, I'm happy it's done, and it'll work as a good reference document now, and it's not super ugly or just a plain text file, which makes me feel good. One thing I want to note is my choice here to go with columns of text rather than full-width paragraphs, which is what I originally was going to do. And this really stemmed from how much I hate looking at full-width paragraphs in PDFs on my phone. It's just ridiculous. So I wanted a way for someone to be able to read this as comfortably as possible on a phone screen. Is it perfect? Not at all. Is it better than full-width paragraphs when you can't interactively resize the text? Absolutely. Okay, put me in the background and let's listen to some character histories. Okay, how I broke each character's section down and how I'll read it is we start with the character name, their class or companion class or whatever, and then a quote from the character, and then their backstory. Okay, here we go. Roya Ardenfall, Ranger, Varakian Archer. Sometimes it's quiet down there. I shouldn't have run. Glances away, self-hatred. I have to go back. Roya grows up beneath the giant trees of Varakia. Her woodsman father and herbalist aunt raise her in the ways of the woods. The nearest village is a 2-day hike. Growing up, she exhibits a rare talent for the bow. At 15, after winning a festival archery contest, she's recruited by the renowned Varakian archers. She proves to be a good soldier. At 22, she falls in love with a fellow archer, falls pregnant, and moves to a hamlet near the regiment's training facility and keep. She has a boy, Arvin Ardenfall, and raises him in the woods as best she can. She is petrified of being a mother, having never had one of her own to learn from. When Arvin is 3, something happens. A horrific incident during which Roya is struck with such terror that she freezes, and at that moment, she loses her son. She falls apart. Her husband goes AWOL, gone to chase his own grief. For years, she fantasizes about suicide, but something deep inside her won't quite let her go through with it. The Shadow Deep grows, and almost in a trance, she returns to the Archers Regiment and re-enlists. For 6 years, she fights skirmishes against Shadow Deep forces. Now, 33, and essentially a husk of a woman. All muscle and reflexes. No emotion. A specter and harbinger of death. Alive only through constant motion. Constant missions. Anything to keep her soul focused on the here and now, and not the past. As the Shadow Deep crashes against its border, Alador's call for aid echoes through Varakia, and the archers pledge a full contingent. As soon as they announce that fighters are needed for the Rangers, men and women who will be tasked with sorties into the dark horrors of the Shadow Deep itself, Roya is the first to volunteer. Possibly the only volunteer. She doesn't know or care. She's packing her armor and cloak and bow and quiver, and on her way before her superiors have even stamped her letter of transfer. In Alador, on the front line, she and her Deathwish Shadow are assigned to a ranger squad led by Fen Bry, the Sunhawk. After her first mission, she is installed as the Warband scout and point person. As she fights alongside other grim and determined warriors for the next 5 years, the Sunhawk's Warband gains a reputation for being one of the longest surviving core rosters. People don't last in the Shadow Deep, but the Sunhawk's legend grows as a particularly accomplished leader, a fair and heavily respected commander in the deep. Warriors are attached to the Warband for training. Most survive. His warband, including Roya, adore him. He is as much responsible for Roya's return to the living as are her brothers and sisters in arms. With every delve into the wretched shadows, she has mentally backed away from that black hole of philosophy that says life is meaningless, that nothing matters. But subconsciously, she is always taking comfort in having a leader to follow. She is a formidable soldier, but her weakness is the subtle dodging of responsibility. The comforting notion that she will always have someone to tell her what to do. She does not follow blindly, but she has not suffered the turnover of commanders a lot of unfortunate others have, and that proves to be a mental trap in and of itself. Thus, the fateful discovery of a cursed book from the Athenaeum of Laurentia, a tome of such tremendous power, even those untrained in scholarly or sorceress studies feel the density of the knowledge it holds. And when the Sunhawk's doomed warband stumbles upon that book, they also stumble upon Beldeath. And that is a terrible turn of fate. The Vine Witch puts paid to the sum of that intrepid warband, save the lone survivor, the one who flees in such immediate and blank terror that even the sounds of her brothers and sisters in arms dying cannot slow her. Tears of fear and self-loathing carve tracks through the blood and mud caked on her face as she flees through the Shadow Deep. And when she finds the sun again with the last of her strength, she only weeps harder. Now she is being tasked with tracking down that damned book. But she is returning to the Shadow Deep for one reason alone: to atone for her sin. The Sunhawk himself was the last to fall, and as far as she knows, he could still be alive. He could still be suffering. all because of her and her blank fear. Promoted to Ranger, she is given half a warband made up of undesirables and forced to recruit additional warriors she may very well lead to their deaths. Now she is face to face with her greatest fear, responsibility. She has never been a leader. Even as an archer, she fundamentally engaged the enemy from afar. But she must contend with this lack of confidence if she's going to accomplish the mission. Either mission. Production note, maybe she's got some kind of lasting injury from the original Bel'Death fight, possibly the cliche lost eye, because that's visually kind of cool, but it's also very cliche. We don't know. Mason Bromlock, Talonian Knight. Yes, I'm up for command. I've led ranks into battle for 2 years. A leader needs to be strong, capable, and fearless. He needs to be respected. But that said, respect is earned. My squires polish my armor every night, not simply because they have to, but because they know the protective value of well-kept gear. We're each a necessary part of the military engine for the kingdom, and those who lead should be the best of the best. I'll promote my juniors accordingly and run my command at the highest operating level. There's no excuse for ill-kept kit. Now get my horse. I attend dinner with the field marshal in an hour. Early 20s, a huge specimen of male vitality, charismatic and bold, a bright and shining tank wielding his longsword and shield like a force of nature. Born into the Bromlock noble family of wealth and privilege, he trained as a knight due to family expectations and royal custom. But upon his 18th birthday, when those same customs and expectations decreed that he put up the blade and assume the expensive fashions of the elite and learn the machinations of court and society, all with the express aim of promoting the family name and shoring up its wealth, Mason broke with tradition. He answered the call of Alador to fight the Shadow Deep, and he took his costly suit of armor, his squire, and his gargantuan beast of a warhorse with him. His parents were aghast. Why would their son leave the Talonian principalities to fight for another kingdom? Yes, typically in times of war there's money to be made, but this fight against the terror-filled unknown, there is no financial prospect there. Only a black hole into which money and blood is poured and poured and poured. Vexed, his father has announced that excommunication is not off the table. Mason ignores this as he ignores so many other things having to do with his family. But he has now been fighting for years, and he has discovered that war can bring out the worst in people, even within your own ranks. Inherently a man of solid character and good intentions, Mason finds this hard to understand and frustrating. He's still young, as his field marshals are fond of reminding him. He loves the military, though, with all his heart. He loves his men, he loves the cavalry, he fights for no single country but for humanity itself. With his tactical mind, his noble blood, and his genuine care for those in his ranks, he is being groomed for command. Most likely an Aladorian armored regiment. He is righteous, if a bit arrogant in his youth and upbringing. When he's told he's to be assigned a short tour with the Rangers to expand his experience with the enemy, he is not happy. He is built to lead men squarely into battle with the forces of evil on the field, not to skulk around in the dark and the muck behind enemy lines. He doesn't necessarily disrespect those small warbands and saboteurs and scouts. He understands the strategic value of such endeavors. He just does not understand what that sort of guerrilla nonsense has to do with him and his beloved rank and flank, the armored cavalry, the god's gift to land warfare. Is it not a tad bit more honorable to walk the battlefield in shining plate and displaying one's strength for the enemy to cower from, to face your adversary eye to cursed eye, and break him without avarice? What honor is there to be had from sneaking around in the smoke and shadows with assassins and sorcerers and rogues? Mason has much to learn, and when he tries to take command while down in the dark, will the Shadow Deep break him like so much kindling? Or will it merely torture him with his own ineptness? Or even twist his sense of honor and self into a dark reflection of rage and hatred? How strong is this man's spirit? Annika Nekros, Chthonian Mage, Conjurer. I write on the flesh of trees with the blood of flowers. I am shunned and feared. For good reason, I suppose. The architecture of the Scrollmaster sorcery is steeped in formula and equations of matter and ether, while the mages conjure and shape from desire and intent. Off-kilter grin. All of them are missing something. An enigma, esoteric and strange. Annika can be friendly, but more often dark, and aloof. Sometimes her conversations seem to be with someone other than to whom she's speaking. Her visage is painted with myriad symbols and protective tattoos. She drips with layers of peculiar jewelry she fashions herself, wards and conduits. Amongst her trappings are books, scrolls, quills, violet and indigo inks with which she sketches arcane symbols and writes notation in spider-crafted handwriting. Most warbands are squeamish to bring her along, but the sharpest rangers are quick to conscript her. Young Annika was always quiet, watching everything and everyone, rarely speaking, even when spoken to. Her parents, candle makers and cloistered members of the secret pyromancy guild, alchemists that produce fireworks, often had callers from various veiled conservatories, and these were her first introductions to the realm of sorcery. And now she is infamous among magic wielders for having attended 2 very different colleges of thaumaturgy. She left the Scroll Masters of Melnoth, traditional wizards steeped in the arcane, to study with the cryptic Chthonian mages and their more druidic practices. Exposure to these varied perspectives has caused her to question the nature of reality. Her quest, one of her quests, has been to reconcile sorcery's formula and equation with magic's metaphysical nature. The science of the ether versus shamanistic determinism. Specialization versus holistic approaches. Engineering versus dreamweaving. Intellect versus spirit. Both approaches yield results, and the question is not how, but why. And why did she study with the Scroll Masters? Why did she leave to study with the mages? She has been searching for something for a long, long time, but she has forgotten the impetus. She does not remember the early years when she lost all those who made her who she is. She does not know that she is adopted. She does not know that her tribe vanished one night in the dead of winter, leaving her alone and forlorn amidst a silent, empty village. And yet, some part of her must know these truths, but that part does not reside within the spectrum of her current reality. And now the Shadow Deep beckons, the largest disruption of reality humanity has ever witnessed. It harbors some form of intelligence, of that she is certain. Of its nature, she hasn't a clue. Thus, she seeks to understand its power, its drive, its intent and desire. Its agents are legion, but Annika recalls reading of Beldeth from the before times, down in some dusty library. She has grown fascinated with the notion of a druid not only succumbing to nameless evil, but now cultivating it. How does Beldeth gain power from the Shadow Deep? And what does it take in return? Through her scholarships, her glimpses behind the veil from multiple perspectives have resulted in her unique interpretation of life, an interpretation difficult to explain to others who do not share her knowledge and experience. She is not good at communicating, never has been. She absorbs information but does not reflect it. This intrinsic personality trait has impacted her own journey as a magi. For example, she can interpret some of what the insects say to one another and can hear the fungi scream when its veins are pierced by the forager's trowel. But she cannot speak to the world, for it does not, or will not, understand her. Her hybrid learning allows her to conjure a fireball with the formulas of sorcery and accelerate flora into wild shapes with the dream rituals of magic. Yet she struggles to unite these methodologies. The scriptures of both disciplines are constantly at war in her mind, logic versus emotion, one mind being torn apart from the inside out. Annika's journey is about coming face to face with the things she studies, things probably better left obscure in ambiguity and esoterica. Her arrogance blinds her to the dangers posed by evil. She is so focused on gaining knowledge that she ignores people and society, risking more than she comprehends in her relentless quest for comprehension. Everything and everyone is slowly becoming means to her ends. Whatever psychological armor she has constructed to protect herself from society is likely now facing the wrong direction. If she is not careful, the Shadow Deep may speak to her. And if it does, will she answer? Gideon Grendel, River Shark Rogue. Well, you must know, the feel of gold is really what drives a man. That shiny yellow glint, that's all you need. Just like, showing a mouse a piece of stinky cheese. You can get that animal to walk into any kind of trap for the right kind of cheese, yeah? But then, there's the cats. Sharp grin. A trickster and thief trying to turn a new page, to rebel against his own personality. This is the new Gideon Grendel. Born on a river to a clan of pirates and gypsies, Gideon was raised in the culture of family first. A precocious child of wily wit, he could talk his way out of a shark's mouth while pickpocketing its teeth. Harboring a wanderlust from a young age, he would seek adventure far from the river whenever he could. The clan always welcomed him back, as long as he brought tithings and no law. Discovering a knack for fast-talking and sleight of hand, Gideon found he could more easily subsist on a steady income of stolen goods and misplaced goodwill than on the meager proceeds of manual labor. A rogue and con man of some measurable success, or adeptness at slipperiness, point of view depending, he's proudly and heroically escaped the law at every turn. More often than not, it's been his braggadocio that has put him on the run. I mean, if a man doesn't sing his own praises, who will? He doesn't hate humanity. In fact, he loves people. But he also loves testing folks. He loves games, and he loves looking for that angle of exploitation. The easy life takes tremendous effort to achieve, even when coming at it from the far side of the law. In his 40s now, he's wondering if he may have been, possibly, maybe, just a tiny bit, chasing a phantom. He's beginning to wonder with greater frequency if he's not unlike a man in the desert, tricked by a mirage, believing endless riches are lying just beyond the horizon. He's realizing that the horizon is never actually within reach. He's becoming disillusioned with his own hopeful greed. And now he's been caught, something he always assumed would incinerate him with shame. But oddly, he thinks he might be feeling something akin to relief. That can't be right, can it? And now he's been given a choice. Rot in the dungeons like a chained rat, or put his efforts towards the saving of humanity. In the Shadow Team. With the Rangers. Of course, he elects the option with the least amount of chains, right? And it's laughable how perfect a venue for escape these imbeciles have given him. But something nags at him. Something the royal judge and the field marshal said to him just before they unlocked the manacles chafes at the back of his mind. Are you going to run your whole life like a child? Or are you a man? And ever since, he can't seem to stop this one notion from bubbling up in his thought cage. Is it time to make amends? Which begs the question, can he make amends? Or is it too late and not worth the effort? He's been a thief and a cheat his whole life. Is that what's going to be written on his grave marker? Which begs a yet further question, will there be anyone left to write on grave markers if the Shadow Deep continues? Gods be good, he wants an axe. Maybe 2 or 3. And a big piece of cheese, for a snack. Sebastien Toulaire, swordsman, our old veteran. Sigh. Let's just get on with it. Blades out. Watch your back, and for the love of the gods, don't stab me while you're at it. It's time to go to work. Ain't no one coming to save us, so just do your damn job. Sebastien is the grizzled war veteran. Most of his metric shit ton of experience and know-how is carved into his face. His last mission, which was a success, mostly, was supposed to be his last. Retirement finally bestowed upon him by the higher-ups. He's got several grandchildren to meet. For 30 years, he's been a masterful warrior and steadfast ranger's companion. But those years are crashing down on him with more and more weight, exacerbating injuries old and new, and the slowing speed at which he mends frustrating him to no end. He's a workhorse of a warrior, a sergeant, and steady fighter, brave but not stupid, and he brooks no nonsense. He gets jobs done. He may or may not be becoming addicted to an herb he takes for chronic pain management, and his mindset won't allow him to see this wagon coming, if indeed it is. He served with Roya in the Sunhawk's Warband years ago. The Sunhawk was asked at some point if he could spare a seasoned warrior to help bolster the thinning ranks of the Rangers, and Sebastien was detached with a sober farewell, and the old fighter did as he always does. He went to work. When Roya asks him to join her warband one last time, he realizes she needs him in a way she does not understand yet. He can see through most people's lack of self-reflection, a gift he's been cursed with his whole life. And even though he won't admit it, he intuits that if he accompanies his old scout in arms into the Shadow Deep, that this is his final dance with the demons, one way or another. And so the question that plagues him in that moment is, does Roya and the army need him more than his family after 3 decades of war? Crimson Cole, man-at-arms. They always ask me what I'm laughing at. I mean, blood's funny, but the light going out is funnier. We're all on the same trip, man, to that cold, dark hole in the ground. Question is, who's going in first? I guarantee you it ain't me. And so what if I like peeking at the insides? It's interesting to see what a man's made of. It's just easier when he's all opened up. Laughing. The looks on their faces when they see themselves spilling out in the mud. Just can't get enough of that. Cole Blackburn is the sort of individual the army will deal with up to a point. He's the sort that unsettles Mason and Sebastian outright despises. Darkly humorous and psychotic, he likes murder and has found an outlet for his proclivities. No one cares if you kill indiscriminately in the smoldering darkness of the Shadow Deep. Infamous for his brutality on the field, he's a particularly effective tool in the right ranger's arsenal. But like any tool with a mind of its own, he can quickly become a liability if not properly leashed. An orphan with a clouded past, Cole grew up in the sewers and canals beneath one of the oldest cities. His earliest memory is a man's bloodied fist. He doesn't know what the context is, but remembers that image very clearly. He doesn't dream, and he's never understood what folks are talking about when they discuss far-fetched slumber stories. He joined the military to avoid the dungeons when he was caught in the middle of a murder spree, laying waste to a street gang in what he has always claimed was preemptive self-defense. In the infantry, he made his name butchering an entire warband of sleeping gnolls, having slunk off into the Shadow Deep while his unit bivouacked under the sun. That bloody stunt, and the sack of heads he brought back, got him shipped off to the Rangers right quick. From there on, he's found himself traded from unit to unit, his methods and attitude and sense of humor creating a strange shadow that follows him around and which he wears like a badge of honor. Roya has been commanded to take him with her, her superiors thinking, possibly correctly, that she needs an unfettered killer on the team. And Crimson Cole is ready to go back into the deep any chance he gets. There's only one question. Does he save the day or ruin the mission? We shall see. I didn't write a close for this video. Oh, I forgot that part. Okay, we're off script because there's no script here. I forgot to write the close of this thing, the close of the video. Anyway, these characters were kind of initially conceived back when in that other video where I came up with Beldeath, the corrupted druid, but they weren't fleshed out in any way. And now I feel like I feel like supported, like there's a foundation that I can now run with. And these characters are, some of that stuff that we just heard about will probably never go on screen. Like an audience member who watches the movie may not realize probably half of that stuff, if not most of that stuff, right? They're just going to see the now version of what's happening. But it's just, I feel much better having this really, what I think for me is a good foundation for these characters' backgrounds. It fills in the world a little bit, lets me know where they come from, so I know how they might react to certain things and how they might talk, things like that. Obviously, my interpretation, my reading the quotes has nothing to do with how an actual actor is going to embody these characters. So that will add that's really what's going to bring the characters to life, or the actors, not some written backstory on the page. It's just something to help me as a writer and help an actor when formulating their character and how they want to play them. There's a couple other smaller characters, like there's the Sunhawk, who actually is going to do some dynamic things within the story. There's the Field Marshal. You can check them out on screen here, the little references I have in that character brief. And there's going to be 2 additional members of the Warband that I have not generated yet, and I might actually collaborate with some other folks on those. Anyway, that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. And it's too hot. It's too hot. I can't think in here right. I'm sweaty. It's gnarly in here. I got to open the windows again. I had to close them for audio. You know how it goes. This is like a YouTube thing. So, Go make some characters for your warband. Like write up character backstories for warband members. It's just cool. And it really gives you a connection to your warband. So when you play the games with your warband, you're going to start to generate just the mere fact that you've created some background. And they don't got to be long backgrounds like these. Like literally our Silver Bayonet, the Nightmare Hunter character backgrounds were just a paragraph each. But they gave us a little jumping off point, and then when you play games with those characters, they are now characters in your mind, and you just are telling, story will just come up out of that. You'll see. Give it a try. All right. See ya.